What is up, everybody? Congrats, you have made it to Friday. You've made it to this show. This is DraftKings is the Sweat. I am Emerson Lotzia, and because you are here, we will reward you with all of the baseball bets, hockey futures, NFL props, all of it that your beautiful, beefy heart desires, whether you know you need it or not. But first, a friendly reminder that for just $20, you can win $1 million this weekend. It's our Week 4 Millie Maker. We're doing it all season long. This Sunday's featured contest has a $4.25 million prize pool. You can enter, again, $20, $1 million to first place, as well as a ticket to DraftKings' Tournament of Champions live final. That's in January, the first month of the year. That is your opportunity to take another shot at $1 million top prize. So go check it out. Get in this contest in the DK lobby, right meow, and we will bring in some of our experts to help you with those lineups in just a moment. Because first, we got some NFL high or low to get to with our DraftKings contributor, Pierce Dietrich, and RotoWire's AJ Schultz. So are the following individual player props too high or too low, guys? We expect a shootout in the Cardinals-Rams matchup on Sunday, first place in the division on the line. They're both 3-0. Matt Stafford is off to an amazing start. His passing total for this game is set at a pretty lofty 295.5. That too high or too low against this Arizona secondary, Pierce?
That's a pretty high number, but dare I say it's too low. Stafford's getting, for the first time in his career, great offensive line play. He's got tons of weapons to pass to. The rush attack's not really that great for the Rams. So why not just keep passing? Arizona's got Robert Alford in their secondary, a guy that was out of the league. He is now a starting cornerback. He's played pretty well, and the Cardinals have played pretty well in the secondary, but they haven't played anybody. In their one tough matchup against the Vikings, they allowed 33 points. Stafford should be able to easily move the ball against this defense.
All right, AJ, how about you, dude?
I'm with Pierce on this one. Look, I think it is too low. Excuse me. You consider the fact the Cards have faced Tannenhill, Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence through the first 3 games. They haven't faced a big arm like Matthew Stafford. I don't see any reason to think he can't hit another 300-yard game here.
Guys, no Christian McCaffrey for the Panthers. So the Dallas defense is going to be facing Chuba Hubbard, however you say his name, in the backfield. His rushing total is set at 53.5. So is that too high in terms of expectations? We're talking about a rookie here, AJ.
Well, I think it's still too low. I mean, the Panthers have the 6th most rush attempts in the league this season with 93. And I don't see them significantly dropping off, that pace of about 30 rushes a game. Even if you figured, Hubbard gets, 20 touches conservatively, that's less than 3 yards a carry to reach 53.5. You combine with the fact that the Cowboys are giving up 4.7 yards per carry, and I definitely think it's too low.
Pierce, how about you?
I'm on the opposite side. I think this is too high. Carolina, before the season, we knew that their offensive line the last couple of years has struggled, and it's pretty much bearing out. If you look at the advanced metrics, the line's not playing that well. Christian McCaffrey is just averaging 3.9 yards per carry. That's 34th in the NFL. If Christian McCaffrey is only getting the 34th best yards per carry, I don't know what Hubbard's going to be able to do. I think the best point of reference is just look at last season. What did Mike Davis do when Christian McCaffrey was out? And 6 times he went over this number. 6 times he did not go over this number. It's going to be a lot closer than it really should be with a low number like this, but I still think it's going to go low.
And Pierce, Carolina has hit the trail for a single second this season. You believe that's going to change this week?
Yeah, man, I think Dallas's defense is playing a lot better. We need to start giving them some credit for what they have done. And then, Dallas's offense, as we already know, they look pretty. I mean, people were talking about how Pollard was better than Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know about that anymore. Ezekiel Elliott looked pretty good last week.
All right, AJ, next up, let's look at the Browns here. Let's look at the Vikings matchup. We've talked a lot this week about Kirk Cousins and that Vikings offense, which is off to a ridiculous start. But let's focus on one of the receivers here. So Justin Jefferson has a receiving yards total of 80.5 set for this game. Do you think that's too high or too low?
I actually think this one's too low as well. Look, the Browns have been one of the best teams so far this season versus the pass by allowing just 632 receiving yards. but they've given up some big plays. They're averaging 12.4 yards per reception, and I think that suits Jefferson's strengths really well. He's got 3 catches this year, over 20 plus yards, and I think it could be another big yardage game for him. So I think it's too low.
Pierce, how about you? Which side do you fall on?
It's too high for me. It's just a really big number. And he's capable of doing it. Obviously, went over it the other week. But there's too many targets on this team with Thielen, Conklin, Osborne. And then you also have to factor in, which we've talked about all week, what if Kirk Cousins suddenly remembers he's Kirk Cousins? And if he does, then you're not going to have this great game. Plus, I with this big of a number, I am slightly concerned with the matchup against Denzel Ward for the Browns. I don't want to target a top-tier cornerback with this high of a number.
And then Pierce, a little nervous too with that Browns defense getting up in Kirk Cousins' face. 9 sacks last week, man.
Well, I'm not really worried because we were talking about earlier this week, stats-wise, Kirk Cousins has been getting the ball out of the pocket really well. He's been dealing with pressure really well. You got to give him credit. He is doing what he's supposed to do. I just still haven't, come to terms with, is this the new Kirk Cousins?
Yeah. You know who hasn't come to terms with that is Jeff Ulrich, but Reed T. Fowler certainly has. There is beef between those two dudes right now. It is entertaining on Twitter. AJ, let's talk here a little bit about TJ Hawkinson and the Lions. They're going to be looking for their first win. We're talking against a division rival, Chicago. Okay. Hawkinson averaging 6 catches a game. He's being targeted left and right, although week 3 was a little more quiet. Is his week 4 receptions total of 4.5 too low?
I actually think it's probably too high. And you alluded to it here, Emerson, is the fact that his targets have dropped every single week. It was a high in week 1 of 11, and he had just 2 targets last week in week 3 here. Khalif Raymond taking up a big share of those opportunities. Look, if his targets end up, I would expect a little bit higher than 2, but if he only gets like 4 or 5 targets, he's got to catch them all here. So I think that number's too high. I think he's kind of, they're spreading it out, seeing a little more production from a couple other guys, and I just don't see him being targeted enough to reach that threshold.
Okay, how about you, Pierce?
Looks like AJ and I are going to disagree on everything this week.
It's awesome.
I say it's too low, and I understand the concern. Detroit last week ran the ball more than they have all season, and they had success. They nearly won the game. So if I am the coach of the Detroit Lions, I'm going to keep running the ball, but Hawkinson is one of their best weapons. They need to use him. Chicago has the 3rd best adjusted sack rate, so there's going to be pressure on Goff. If Goff is under pressure, I would look to my best weapon, which is Hawkinson, and target him like he did in week 1 and in week 2. I know Chicago's been good against tight ends this season, but it's a small sample size, and they haven't really faced some tough opponents. If you look back to last year, they were 2nd worst when it comes to allowing fantasy points to tight ends, so they were definitely someone you could target before. I think they will be again. Hawkins. Here's another thing. If you look up Hawkinson, and this has nothing to do with anything, but look at his picture online. Doesn't he look like the Cowardly Lion? Anyone want to check that out sometime? Cowardly Lion photo.
Yeah, so you're digging his long hair?
I don't know if I'm going to say I'm digging his long hair.
You used to have hair like that. That was your old haircut like 3 weeks ago. You change your haircut every month.
Yeah, well, I just need to get it cut more often. I don't know what to tell you. Look, don't get fashion advice from me. I'm the last person anyone wants to talk to.
What was the cowardly? He needed a heart, right? It seems like Hawkinson has a heart out there, at least for fantasy. Yeah, courage. That's what it was. I'm sorry. What was the heart? The Tin Man?
Tin Man needed the heart. He needed courage.
Okay, so what did the Scarecrow need?
A brain.
A brain. There you go. It's been a while. It's one of my favorite movies, though. Let's end the segment here with this week's most talked about game. So the Sunday night showdown between the Bucs and the Patriots. Oh man, this is juicy. This is meaty. All the focus has been on Tom Brady's return. Yes, but earlier in the week, Pierce, you said Tampa has to get the running game going. So with that in mind, is a rushing total of 41.5 too high or too low for Uncle Leo, Leonard Fournette?
It's too low. They should run the ball. Not that Bruce Arians listens to me, not that he really should listen to me. But, what I'm saying is exactly what he did last season. Tampa ran the ball. They were very conservative, balanced on offense all season long. They didn't throttle up until the end, and that worked. And that's probably what they should do again if they want to win. run the ball with Fournette. Him and Rojo proves that they can carry the load and they can handle it and get this team. I'm a Keyshawn Vaughn guy, so I think Bon Jovi should get in and get some action as well. But you run the ball, you play conservative, you take it easy on your defense too, because that defense just got a lot older this week. So you don't want those guys on the field too much. It should go over, but you know what? It could just be the Tom Brady revenge narrative, whatever.
All right, how about you? Let's hear it, AJ.
Well, I agree with Pierce that it should be too low, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's too high. And you look at a couple of numbers here for Fournette. Look, start with snap totals. He was on the field for just 36.6% of the Bucs' offensive snaps. That actually trailed Giovanni Bernard. Though Bernard factored exclusively in the passing game, he didn't get a single carry. If they go pass heavy again, it looks like Gio's their guy. And then you also factor in, Ronald Jones had more carries in week 3 just by one, but still he had more carries in week 3 than Fournette. And so I think this is too high of a mark for him.
Gentlemen, that was fun. We will talk more football coming up in this show. I'm glad we were able to squeeze in some Wizard of Oz action as well. We've got some MLB best bets and DFS plays coming up right after this break. All right, guys, we're going to get back to football in just a little bit, but I need to introduce you to our baseball panel this morning. It consists of DraftKings contributors Kenny Ducey and Matt Meiselman. We got RotoWire's Paul Bruno in the house this morning. We're going to cover the bases right now, guys. Need your favorite plays in the following categories on tonight's Major League Baseball slate. This is the final weekend of the year, the final 3 days of the season. It is hot. First base, favorite DFS pitcher is who, Kenny?
It's going to be Nestor Cortez of the New York Yankees. Look, it is hard right now in the last few days of the season to find a pitcher who's going to be pitching in a meaningful game, who's going to care about this one. I know, obviously, you saw Rich Hill last night, right? There are good outings to be had. But let's look at Nestor Cortez here, and here's why. He's got a very high strikeout rate, up over 27%. And the Tampa Bay Rays, they are up there in WRC plus to lefties, but still 17th. In OPS, and the big key number, 25.5% strikeout rate against lefties. They just have not been able to solve left-handed pitching all year long. They've found a little bit of power, but Nestor Cortez is a guy that's good at inducing the soft contact. The strikeout prowess is there. We want to see that strikeout upside in DFS. I think he has it. He can get over 6 strikeouts, and that would make him a very nice play at $8,900 in a game where the Rays might just not really care if they win or not. They already wrapped up the best record in the AL.
Paul, favorite DFS pitcher, who is it?
I'm going to follow Kenny's lead and stick with the games that matter, Emerson. So I'm going to look at the Seattle game tonight. I expect Marco Gonzalez to continue his outstanding work of late, keeping the M's in the wild card hunt. He costs $8,400 and comes into play on a real tear, going 7-0 in his last 10 starts, while posting a whip of .91 and an opposing batting average of 192 in his last 64 games. 64 innings pitched, rather. He faces an Angels team that has no motivation tonight, so should roll over them. Steven Matz is regarded as the number 5 starter in the Blue Jays rotation, but he's looked great in going 5-1 in his last 10 outings, punctuated by a 48-17 strikeout to walk ratio and allowing only 4 homers in his last 53 innings pitched. He gets an Orioles club that will lead with pitcher Thomas Eichelman, who has a whip of 164 and an opposing batting average of 301. I expect a good night for the Blue Jays offense.
Okay, Matty, who do you expect a good night from on the mound in DFS?
This is kind of a weird day. I think this is an under-the-radar wild baseball slate because we have some situations where teams clinched or were eliminated from the playoffs last night. So the Astros clinched the AL West. The Phillies were eliminated from contention. The Braves clinched their division. So I think Tyler McGill may be facing a bunch of backup Braves hitters. So I'm looking there at 8,900. But honestly, I think you don't need to look to the pitchers who have something to pitch for. I think just taking advantage of really good matchups might be the way to go. So Dakota Hudson for the Cardinals, I don't think is a very good pitcher. His last appearance, though, he did go 4 innings out of the bullpen. And he's facing a Cubs team, which we know is just not a good offense. And the Cubs' best hitter this season is Patrick Wisdom, who is currently on the IL for the rest of the year. So it's a really strong matchup at home. The Cardinals have nothing to play for right now, locking themselves into that second wildcard spot. But 6,800 for a pitcher, I think this is a night where you can pay up for some offense. So trying to find someone cheap, I think, will be harder to do, and this is the guy I'm looking towards.
Okay, let's go to second base here, guys. Talking favorite DFS hitter, Paul.
I'm really pulling for Sal Perez this weekend. He needs 2 homers to get to 50 overall. Wouldn't that be something? We've never seen that from the backstop position. He's priced at $5,500 and comes into tonight's action on a 12 for 36 tear, which includes 3 homers and 8 extra base knocks overall. He faces John Gant tonight, who has a 4.85 ERA in his last 26 innings pitched. So I like Perez's chances here. As a Jays fan, I saw way too much of Gio Stanton and Aaron Judge. Consider Stanton 11 for his last 37, Judge 10 for his last 33. That's in their last 10 games. They picked the perfect time to get hot and showed off their power strokes in leading to a key series win against the Jays. I think they will both continue their recent hot streaks versus Tampa tonight. So I suggest a mini stack of them at $5,200 and $5,700 respectively. I'll throw in a value play that I like with David Peralta. He has not hit too well of late, going only 5 of his last 29. But I'm going to test my theory of looking at the head-to-head matchups when there's a significant sample. It's a 17 for 40 record against Rockies' John Gray. I say it's worth a shot at only $3,400.
All right, Matt, who's your favorite hitter?
So I'm a little bitter about this one because 2 days ago I picked Fernando Tatis Jr. against Max Scherzer, and Scherzer gave up a bunch of runs. The Padres scored 9 for the game, but Tatis didn't play that night. So he just didn't get in on the action. And then last night, Tatis hit maybe the longest home run that anyone's ever hit at Dodger Stadium. Like, he's still playing for something. I know the Padres are eliminated, but Tatis is now in the number 3 spot, I think, for the MVP race. And I think that's his motivation. Like, he wants to be in that conversation, and maybe he thinks he has a chance to win. I honestly, though, I don't think motivation matters a ton. Once these guys are out there, they're playing the way they're always playing. So as long as he's in the lineup, right? So the motivation might just be the Padres don't care about this game, so they give him another night off. That's my concern. But if he's out there, Anthony DeSclafani, I think, is a fine pitcher. It's just that Tatis is maybe the best DFS player in the league because of his home run and speed combination, and he's a shortstop. And I don't think a lot of people play him because I think most people will look towards the teams that have something to play for. I think Bo Bichette of the Blue Jays, for example, or Xander Bogaerts, those will be the higher-owned shortstops. Tatis probably gets overlooked. So at only $5K, which is kind of a discount for him, I think, he's my favorite guy for tonight.
All right, Kenny, which hitter do you like in DFS?
Yeah, Matt preaching a lot of sense here. That's why we call him, that's why his Twitter handle is Preaching Sense. And look, I do think that is a good call to go to the pitchers in good matchups, the hitters potentially. There's a lot of them that could have good games that aren't in meaningful games. And one of them is Christian Yelich. I think Christian Yelich is a very good play here at $3,900. He doesn't have, of course, really anything to play for because Milwaukee's well into the playoffs at this point. But when you look at his numbers against Clayton Kershaw in his career, he's 9 for 25. That's 360 with 2 homers and a double. And this is a guy that has completely turned his season around. I will also take this platform to say, go out and get this guy in dynasty leagues if you can. If people have given up on Christian Yelich, over the last month and a half, really, I mean, stemming from a Cardinals series way back when he can't, he just basically came through in the clutch for the Brewers. He's been on fire. He's got 6 hits in his last 5 games as well. 23rd in WRC plus over the last 2 weeks, a minimum of 20 plate appearances. I think that this guy is hitting well. We know he is incredibly talented. He's won the MVP, and he's facing a guy that he's very familiar with in Clayton Kershaw. I think $3,900 is a very, very cheap price, but I would be lying if I said he was technically my favorite player, because I think Giancarlo Stanton going up against Shane McClanahan, over 47% hard hit rate. He's gonna just mash the baseball. But I really like Yelich here at this price.
All right, let's go to the hot corner. Let's go to third base here, dudes. Let's go to the DK Sportsbook. Favorite run line or money line bet, Matt?
So the pick that I had in mind as of 20 minutes ago, I can't really say anymore because the Mets were plus 135 for their game in Atlanta tonight. The line's dropped 30 cents. They're down to plus 105. And I think what's going on, which we'll see a lot across the board, is that teams that don't have anything to play for, especially if they just got into that status as of today, like the Braves who clinched the division last night, they're not going to play most of the regulars. Freddie Freeman probably won't be in the lineup among other guys. So the Mets are already on the move. I can't really recommend them because the line has moved so much. So I think I may have to go with the Marlins because that line hasn't moved a ton yet. They're around pick'em against the Phillies at home. And this one is worth monitoring because it's going to depend entirely on who starts for the Phillies tonight. But they're out of the playoffs now. So I think Real Muto, Harper, Segura, McCutchen, all those guys may not start. And if that's the case, I think the Marlins should be significant favorites. I like Ranger Suarez, but Sandy Alcantara is probably still a better pitcher. The Marlins are at home. These lineups could be pretty even if the Phillies are playing their backups. So that's tentatively my pick because it's going to depend on if the starters are in.
Paul, where are you going for your favorite run line or money line bet?
Before I rag on the Red Sox, I'll remind listeners that I'm a Jays fan, and I know they lost 2 of 3 against the Yankees, but I'm more surprised that Boston dropped 2 of 3 in Baltimore. And tonight, the Bo Sox visit Washington, and I expect their struggles to continue. That offense has been a little inconsistent of late, and their starter, Eduardo Rodriguez, has been up and down in his last 10 starts as well, and affords a platoon advantage to a couple of red-hot bats in Keibert Ruiz and Alcides Escobar, along with the presence of the lefty slugger Juan Soto. That's going to be a tough night for him, I think, and he's been hitting against everybody, Soto has. So I like their chances tonight. The Nats will start lefty Josh Rogers, who's impressed in his last 5 starts with a .229 opposing batting average, a .273 ERA over 29 2/3 innings in that stretch. I'll take the Nats at plus 170 on the money line tonight. The Dodgers need to keep the pressure on the Giants for at least one more night, and they line up behind their leader, Clayton Kershaw, against a Brewers team that has come in and they're hot, home and cooled out, rather. The home side won't blow this opportunity, so I'll take them at minus 1.5 for the 110 payout.
Young Kenneth, how about you?
Yeah, I like the Yankees. No surprise here at minus 130. And again, look, I think the Rays, you saw last night, they didn't really deploy a lot of their high leverage relievers. They just wrapped up the best record, home field advantage out the playoffs. So I don't think that they're really going to go balls to the wall here to win this game. When you look at the matchup, I don't think it's a good one for Shane McClanahan coming in with the 4.63 xERA. Obviously, he has that electric fastball, but this is a very good fastball hitting team, and that 45.4% hard hit rate, 420 xWOBA on contact. I can go on and on. The bottom line here is this guy's giving up a lot of hard hit balls, and the New York Yankees might be the most intimidating lineup to face right now if you are having issues giving up hard hit balls. Stanton and Judge with 9 homers over the last 9 games. The Yankees have won 8 of those over the last week. The Yankees are tops in barrel rate, fourth in home runs, and 4th in hard hit rate and WRC plus. I just don't see a way where McClanahan makes it out unscathed. And if they're able to fall behind, then we already talked about the Rays' adversity against left-handed pitching with Nestor Cortez in a good spot. I think that this could get away from the Rays early, and I don't think they're going to be bringing in their high-leverage guys to save this game. So I think that the Yankees could go on and, I think, lock up the wild card here with the win.
All right, guys, we're heading home. Favorite game total on this Major League Baseball slate. 14 games to choose from. Paul, talk to me.
I'll give you 2 of them. The game total at 8.5 between the O's and the Jays will be easy pickings tonight, as I expect the Jays offense to be in high gear, and the O's come in feeling pretty good about themselves too after taking 2 out of 3 from Boston, like I said. Take the over in that one. The Giants continue to roll along on top of the NL West and have carved out a 6-game winning streak most recently while limiting opponents to 14 runs in that stretch. I think that trend continues tonight against San Diego, a club that has lost their last 6 games. I'm counting on the Padres starter Joe Musgrove to keep a lid on things. He's had a string of 6 of 7 quality starts. I'll take the under 8-run total here tonight.
All right, Kenny.
I'm going to go with the over in Red Sox Nats. It's all the way at 9.5, but I still like it. The Eduardo Rodriguez has really struggled over the last month or so. A bit of roller coaster ride coming off a shaky outing against the Yankees. But really, the bigger reason I like this is Josh Rogers and his 90-mile-an-hour fastball. That's how he pitches to contact. It's not going to go so well for him against the Red Sox lineup that seems to have woken up, can hit left-handed pitching. And the Nationals, in their own right, have been very good against lefties all year long. It's been the best spot to back them. So I think that both of these offenses can have some success and go over the total by a few runs.
Matt, favorite game total tonight?
So I'm looking at some of the same spots as Kenny. I basically agree strongly with about half of it and disagree with the other half. So I kind of like the under in the Boston-Washington game, actually. And a lot of it is just the weather. I know I've been harping on weather a bit lately, but Washington is a hitter's park generally because it's really hot and humid there. Tonight, it's getting colder. We're into October. It's going to be like 60 degrees. I don't think Josh Rogers is good, but I also Boston is losing their DH tonight, which means JD Martinez may not be in the lineup. So I am kind of taking a wait-and-see approach with a lot of these games where it's just, let's see who's in the lineup. I think there's a lot of uncertainty across the board. But the one thing I do agree with Kenny a lot more is I think the over is a good spot in the Yankee game, and it mostly comes from that Yankee side. So I just think this offense is much better than what's being projected here. I don't like McClanahan that much. But I also think Nestor Cortez is a little bit overrated. And again, this will depend on the lineup. So if the Rays run out their A lineup, which they have done here and there, the Rays have been locked into the AL East for about a week now. Nelson Cruz plays some games, rests some other games. So assuming he's in there, if more of the regulars are in there, I think you can go to the over there. But basically, I'm waiting to see the starting lineup for just about any game tonight. And these are kind of just where I'm leaning pending these starting lineups come out.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your help with all of those amazing baseball bets. Right now, we're going to do a little bit of a NASCAR price check here with our friend Pierce for this weekend's race at Talladega Speedway.
Welcome to the Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Talladega. Whose salary jumped up this week? Justin Haley, $5,600 up to $9,400. Whoa, DraftKings, take it easy. I get it, he's starting in the back. And he won a plate race, but that was because of lightning, and you know what they say. Lightning doesn't strike twice. Eric Almirola, $7,000 up to $9,200. Looks like DraftKings did their homework, or they looked at the stat sheet for 3 seconds. Before the last two at Talladega, he had a streak of 8 top 10s. Alex Bowman, $8,300 up to $10,200. I don't understand this price. He's not starting in the back, and he's not particularly a good plate racer. Whose salary dropped this week? Kyle Larson, $11,100 down to $8,400. Plate racing is like Superman on planet Krypton. Kyle Larson has no advantages this weekend at Talladega. Kyle Busch, $10,800 down to $8,200 since 2017. Over those 19 plate races, he has 3 top 10s and an average finish of 22nd. Martin Truex Jr., $9,700 down to $7,600. You think Busch is bad? Over those same 19 races, he has 2 top 10s and an average finish of 23rd. Favorite play of the week, Denny Hamlin, $10,500. He's the best plate racer in NASCAR. He knows when to push, he knows when to bail, and he knows when the time is right to go for it at the end for the win. He has spidey senses at the plate tracks. Joey Logano, $7,900. Team Penske has won the last 2 plate races. They should have won the Daytona 500. Joey Logano should have won the Daytona 500. He's the second best plate racer in NASCAR. All right, guys, check out DK Nation for all your DFS information and needs. If you got NASCAR questions, find me on Twitter at @RaceForThePrize. I am Pierce Teacher. Catch me on DK Live.
All right, guys, winter is coming. With winter comes ice. With ice comes ice hockey. And we're going to talk some NHL. We're going to look into the future here a little bit with DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's Paul Bruno and AJ Scholes. Seeing the future, we're checking out NHL futures bets here on the DK Sportsbook for the 2021-2022 NHL season, which starts on October 12th. Let's start here with team futures. The NHL is back to their usual divisional format here. So taking a look at the division winners future, currently Maple Leafs favorite there in the Atlantic, Islanders there in the Metro, Avs and Golden Knights are all favored to win their divisions. What's your favorite bet out of those teams, Jeff?
Yeah, as much as I like to go with the plus money here with a team like maybe the New York Islanders, I'm going to the easy pick here. It's the Vegas Golden Knights. Look, do you just look at this division? Let's not make let's not make things more difficult than they need to be. You look at the Pacific Division, you can cross off 5 teams right off the bat. These teams have no chance at winning the division. The Flames, the Canucks, the Sharks, the Kings, the Ducks. These teams are not winning the division. They're just not. Then you've got an expansion team in the Kraken. We don't really know how that's going to go. That leaves us with the Edmonton Oilers, who are going into this season with Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen in net. I'm sorry, I don't have that much confidence in it. I'm a big Oilers guy, but I'm really not that confident. It's the Vegas Golden Knights here. Yeah, it's minus 160. This team, to me, though, should be closer to minus 300. So for me, that's the best price you're getting.
Paul, is Vegas the easy bet in your eyes?
You know what? I want to make money for me and my listeners, so I agree with whatever all that Jeff said. But I want to go to take a look at the Islanders and their situation. Like he said, you can write off a bunch of teams in this division too, though. The main contenders year in, year out that we've talked about are Washington and Pittsburgh. I think they're both going to take a step backward owing to the aging of their cores and some questions along the rest of their rosters. In addition, I'm looking at the Islanders' main competition is with Carolina. They made a seismic change in that, and we'll see how that plays out. They also lost their signature defenseman on the blue line with the departure of Dougie Hamilton, and they got the arrival of Tony DeAngelo, who comes with a whole slew of question marks around him. Is he going to be ready to play? If he does, can he reach the level that he had years ago and be one of the scoring leaders among defensemen? That's too many big question marks there, and that's the main competition that the Islanders have. In what the Islanders do have going for them, very few changes on this roster. They added the man mountain known as Zdeno Chara, and I wonder how he's going to cope with the new cross-checking rules, but I assume he's going to fit in and do his thing and only add to what I already see as a very deep defense and a very solid defensive structure. 1 through 4, the offense has 4 good lines that they can roll out every night, and they'll force opponents to play their grinding style of game. I think everything points to an Islanders challenge for the division title and a very nice payoff at plus 275.
AJ, of all the teams favored to win their division, which one is your favorite bet?
I think Paul is just like trying not to jinx the Leafs here, because that's definitely my favorite. The Metro is a toss-up. I think the Golden Knights could take a step back this year. When you trade away the Vezina Trophy winner, you're not a better team. Just straight up, it doesn't matter who you brought in.
Death, taxes, and AJ mentioning Marc-Andre Fleury.
Hey, I didn't even say
Thanks for saying it, Jeff. I don't like doing it for you either.
But look, the Leafs are in. They're my favorite bet here because you get plus money at plus 195, and it's basically a coin flip. I think it's between them and the Lightning for who's going to take that division. Now, if you're asking me straight up, who's the most likely team to win their division, I think the odds makers have this right, and it's 100% going to be the Colorado Avalanche are going to steamroll that division. But do I want to take a risk of like a McKinnon injury or a Landeskog injury messing that up at minus 250? Absolutely not. So my favorite bet among the 4 is the Leafs at plus 195.
Your sweater's coming, pal.
Hey, Paul, you can also parlay a pair of division winners together. So what do you think the best combo for that parlay is?
I have to think that you lock in one of the 2 prohibitive favorites. Let's go with the Knights in this case, and pair them up with the Islanders, who will only be battling Carolina, like I said, at the top of the Metro Division. That parlay could leave a nice payout in your pocket, but it comes with only minimal risk that I forecast. I look at other combos based on the favorites and see this one making the most sense. I already said Colorado is a prohibitive favorite in their group, so including them in the parlay only reduces the return. On the other end of the spectrum, I'm surprised that Toronto's a favorite in the Atlantic ahead of the defending champs in Tampa. That'll be a very competitive group, perhaps the most competitive one. I'm going to even add Florida and Boston into the mix, and I think they'll all be among the top 10 teams in the whole league. So I like my thing with the Knights and Carolina. And the Islanders, I should say.
AJ, what's your parlay approach?
Well, looking at what they have on the DK Sportsbook here, I think my favorite one of the division winner parlays is probably Lightning and Avalanche at plus 340. Look, I said that the Leafs were my favorite of those division winners, but I actually slightly favor the Bolts to overall take that division. But again, either way, I think it's a toss-up. And then you're pairing them with an Avalanche club that I said is going to steamroll look, for me, if I can make an appeal to the DraftKings odds makers here, I'd like to see some parlays show up on the site here that include the Hurricanes, because I think they could really be in contention in that Metro division. But in terms of all the long shots, Paul kind of alluded to it. I don't mind the Bolts and the Islanders. It comes in at plus 1,100. Both being slightly, the Islanders being the Metro favorite on the sports book there, and then the Bolts being right behind the Leafs.
Alrighty, next up, Jeffrey.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely sticking with my Vegas Golden Knights pick. I think they'll be just fine in net with Leonard, but you take that value you're getting with them, and then you pair them with either the Islanders at plus 550. If you wanted some bigger odds, I really don't mind the Panthers as a pick here. I think they are getting a little bit overlooked. A lot of it's going to depend on how their net play goes, if Bobrovsky can bounce back, Spencer Knight. But this team added Sam Bennett. I think they're a lot deeper than people are giving them credit for. You've got teams like the Lightning taking a step back just in terms of personnel that they lost over the summer. I like the Panthers to pair with the Golden Knights at plus 750, but my favorite parlay is definitely the Islanders and the Golden Knights. I think the Islanders are in a really good spot. Paul alluded to it. I think that division, some teams going to be taking a step back there. So give me the Islanders and the Golden Knights, my favorite parlay.
Well, speaking of Paul, here we go. Toronto's Austin Matthews is actually a pretty heavy favorite to lead the league in goals. It's looking at plus 300 odds. So the next closest there, Leon Draisaitl, plus 700. Is Matthews your favorite in this category? And just tell me why he is, Paul.
You know what? I'm smiling because I like this bet a lot. Matthews led the league in a year when he was hampered for much of the season by a wrist injury and a Leaf power play that stumbled in the last 20 games last year. I expect both issues to be non-issues this season, and that he'll even play at a higher level this season. The way last season finished left a huge chip on his shoulder. I expect him to be extra motivated. I also see his top contenders. Look, Draisaitl is going to get his goals and points, but I don't think he's the guy to watch for. I see his top contenders still being David Pastrnak, and he's got to consider that Patrice Bergeron has slowed down a little bit last year and enters his age 36 season. And Alex Ovechkin is a guy who should be also considered. He's also in his age 36 season, and his scoring pace dropped a bit last season. And in addition, it should be pointed out that his normal center, Nicholas Backstrom, is already dealing with a hip injury that will keep him out for several weeks. So I think Austin Matthews runs away with the Rocket Richard this year.
All right, Jeff, how about you, dude?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that sentiment. I think Draisaitl probably going to be playing less with McDavid now that they have Hyman on the wing there. It probably will affect his goal scoring numbers just a tad. I think that really the only reason you're taking someone other than Austin Matthews is you just think that someone's so big in the odds that maybe Austin Matthews misses some games, and that person can kind of climb up that way. I think Nathan McKinnon at plus 1,700 would be my target if that's your thinking. I'm a little bit surprised to see him at plus 1,700. It's a player who shoots the puck or has shot the puck more than anyone in the league at certain points in his career. And if he bounces back, that's the same kind of shot rate. Let's say Matthews just slow start or does get injured. I think Nathan McKinnon at plus 1,700 is actually really good value. So my pick is definitely Matthews, but I think that if you're looking elsewhere, I would go down to plus 1,700 there with McKinnon.
Okay, AJ.
I'm with these guys. I think Matthews is the favorite. My guy that might be, an intriguing sprinkle option at some longer odds is actually Carrillo Caprisoft at plus 1,700. You look at his goal totals from last season when he played, just the 55 games. He had 27 goals as a rookie there. Carry that over into an 82-game season. You're looking at 40 goals based on that pace. I think he could increase that. And let's take a look at 2019-20 when we had our last full 82-game season. It was Ovechkin and Draisaitl at the top at 51 and 50. That's not a huge stretch to think Caprisoft can get there based on his current rate. So again, like Jeff said, like Paul said, I think it's going to be Austin Matthews. And at plus 300, you're basically betting that he doesn't get injured. But if you want a more long shot, better odds, I like Caprisoft.
Alrighty, guys, finally, let's look at Rookie of the Year. That's important. Montreal's Cole Caulfield made a big impression during the Habs' deep playoff run last year, and in turn, he is the favorite at plus 300. How do you like him, or do you see some other options on the board, AJ?
Well, much like Matthews, I think it would take an extended injury absence from Caulfield for him not to take home the Calder this year. The only name on this list that I really think might have a chance of challenging here would be Spencer Knight, who comes in at plus 1,000 here, but that would require him to take over as the number one netminder over Sergei Bobrovsky. I don't see that happening. I just don't see him playing enough games, even if he puts in solid numbers. So I think this is Cole Caulfield's trophy to win, and I'll just leave you boys with this. I'm Wisconsin.
Ooh, Jeff, would you like to share your rebuttal here?
Yeah, I would. I think this is open. I mean, I don't think when you look at Rookie of the Year, unless you have a really dominant talent that's playing in a massive role, you should be that confident at plus
Like
300.
Cole Caulfield?
A dominant talent, we'll see. I like Cole Caulfield, but look, Vasily Podkolzin of the Vancouver Canucks is going to get a lot of opportunity. He's on the second line. They're probably going to move JT Miller to center. He's a playmaking guy from Russia. He's played in the KHL a little bit like Carrillo Caprisoft last year. You get that experience. This is a 20-year-old player as well. He's going to have an edge on some of the other rookies. And again, you're looking at the Vancouver Canucks roster. This guy's going to fit in the top 6 right away. I think that at plus 1,500, he is definitely worth a look. If he starts getting power play time right off the bat, this guy was a really good junior. He was a leader for Russia in a lot of tournaments and stuff like that. I think he's got the ability to slot in that top 6 and start playing big minutes. Again, he's a little bit older, and he's got experience playing in the pros. Vasily Podkolzin plus 1,500. I like that as a long shot bet.
Do you like him as the favorite here, Paul?
You know what? You can certainly make the case, but he's going to need to score north of 30 goals to get there. And I don't remember the last time a Montreal Canadian forward scored 30 in a year. So that's his challenge in a team that's offensively limited, I think. I see Spencer Knight as a real threat here. If he gets a big share of the net on a very good team in Florida in partnership with a grossly overpaid and overrated Sergei Bobrovsky. Look, Bobrovsky's struggled more than expected in his 2 seasons with the club. They're going to give Knight every chance to take the reins here, I think. And should he play most of the games, that ought to lead to some solid numbers, and I think that could make him a favorite. But another top contender with almost a similar pedigree to Caulfield is Trevor Zegras over in Anaheim. He's going to center the top line out there, and like Caulfield, he'll get top line minutes as well as a great exposure on a power play that should be much improved this year. I remember him, for instance, as a top scoring junior and a real menace against Team Canada in World Junior competition from a couple of seasons ago. He was very dynamic then, and I saw a lot of great clips of him in 24 games that he played in the NHL level, one shy of what would have eliminated him from this competition altogether this year.
Guys, we're just getting started here when it comes to talking about the NHL and even fantasy and definitely sports betting, because as we've already mentioned, the puck drops on the season on October 12th. So next week, I need all 3 of you to gear up. We're going to be using you and abusing you, and I am excited for that. I'm also excited for after this break, we're going to have a little fantasy football conversation. Who is it? Pierce and Jeff. Let's go. All right, everybody, we are going to chase or fade a few statements here ahead of week 4 around the NFL. And here to help us do that is our final NFL panel of the week. Let's go. DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich. News came out this week. James White now out for the season for New England. So most people think Tom Brady and company are just going to blow the Pats away on Sunday. I would totally agree with that. So the playing from behind game script could be in play here for Mac Jones and company. In that scenario, James White would usually shine. He would eat. But now with him out for the year, a lot of people scrambling to the waiver wire, looking at J.J. Taylor. So chase or fade that Taylor will see a lot of volume this week in Foxborough, Jeff.
Yeah, I fade this. I have no idea what Bill Belichick is going to do. I mean, look, you follow fantasy football for the last decade. The Bill Belichick roller coaster at running back is whatever you think he's going to do, he's probably not going to do it. What do we know about this guy? I mean, okay, he's flashed. Some people like him. I mean, J.J. Taylor, it makes sense that J.J. Taylor would be the guy who steps in, but like, don't forget, Stevenson looked very good in the preseason. I hate to even bring up the name, guys, but like Brandon Bolden still on the roster. This has a 20% chance of working out like everyone thinks it's going to be. I think J.J. Taylor will get involved a little bit. I don't think he's going to dominate the touches or anything. That would make sense. But again, trying to make sense of what Bill Belichick going to do, always going to give you a headache. So, no, I'll fade this.
All right, what are you going to do? Chase or fade, Pierce?
I'll fade this as well. And 20% is probably kind of high that this is going to work. That's being really hopeful for J.J. Taylor. And it's the same reasons that Jeff mentioned. It's Bill Belichick. We don't know what he's going to do. There's 4 running backs already on this team. And if for whatever reason J.J. Taylor ends up being the guy that gets the workload, well, then he has to do something with it. And he also needs Tampa to allow a 3rd string, 4th string, whatever string he is, running. Look, I love going to like the waiver wire guy, and I'm a sucker for the next guy up, cheap value play, but this ain't it.
Let's see if this is it. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan attempting to put a stop to talk of a quarterback battle in San Fran this week, reiterating that Jimmy G, handsome, overrated quarterback, is the starter. That may be the case now. However, chase or fade that Jimmy G is still under center at the end of the season, Pierce?
I think he's going to be the starter all season long. Have we lost our minds? Have we seen what these rookie quarterbacks are doing? They're terrible. If Zach Wilson were on the bench, people would say, give him a chance. If Trevor Lawrence were on the bench, they would be saying the same thing. Stick with the quarterback. Last time I checked, it's hard to play quarterback in the NFL. And every year at this time, I find myself Googling quarterbacks that sat during the rookie season. And I click on this very same clickbait article every time. And I find out, yeah, a lot of really good quarterbacks sat out. So, hey, San Francisco, be patient. Take your time. A lot of good quarterbacks rest their first year. And, hey, your problem is not the quarterback. They need to figure out the running back situation, and they need to get their cornerbacks healthy.
I have been watching all of the rookie quarterbacks all season, Pierce. I also watched that Jaguars game last night. Trevor Lawrence making throws that no one has seen in a Jaguars uniform since the Mark Brunell days. Did not throw any interceptions. Trevor Lawrence is back. Jeff, back to the 49ers. Jimmy G still under center at the end of the season, chase or fade?
Yeah, let's just overlook the fact Joe Burrow had like a better everything.
Oh my God!
But okay, yeah.
Get
anyways,
out of here! Get
great
out
pick.
of here!
I mean, sure. I mean,
Thank
Jameis
you.
Winston for sure. You got the next one. Look, Pierce is right. The problem really hasn't been Jimmy Garoppolo this year. I mean, he's got a 101 QBR. He's got a yards per attempt of 8, which is fine. It's about average. 67% completion rate. Like, he's not playing terrible. The problem with the 49ers this year is going to be their defense. They're allowing like almost 5 yards per carry on the ground right now as well. Sure, they're getting a little bit of pressure, but like they're not really playing good on defense. That's going to lead to more shootouts. I guess if Jimmy Garoppolo has to drop back more, I think if you're betting on Trey Lance to be a starter, it's probably because Jimmy Garoppolo starts throwing more and then he gets injured again because he starts getting sacked more. He's already taken 5 sacks on the year. So that is a possible lane where Trey Lance could end up as a starter, but I don't think that I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's play is going to get him benched because, this is a San Francisco offense. They have great yards after the catch receivers, Deebo Samuel, the running backs, Kittle. Like, these guys are going to make Garoppolo good regardless. So as long as Garoppolo's serviceable, he's probably not going to get benched. So I'm going to fade this one too.
Okay, Jeff. Anywho, for a second, we're in a fight now, Jeff. Now it's Reed and I versus you. For a second straight week, Lamar Jackson has missed some practices. This time, looks like a sore back. So Jackson is the team's leader in rush attempts and yards this season. So I need you to chase or fade for me, Jeff, that Baltimore dials back Lamar's rushes in week 4 to protect him a little more, which would obviously, if they did that, would impact a lot of his fantasy points.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson isn't getting dialed back anytime soon. Are you kidding me?
I don't know if he would allow that.
This is their offense. And then you've got the fact that, they're going up against Denver, one of the best, just against the pass altogether in the league. This is a stacked secondary. Baltimore's not passing their way out of this game. They're not going to be doing anything out of this game. They're probably going to need Lamar Jackson to save them with their legs. I expect a close game here, and I expect Baltimore, maybe the only way they're going to be able to move the ball consistently is with Lamar Jackson getting out of the pocket, making some plays, maybe a little bit with his arm too. But no, I don't expect Baltimore to be dialing back his carries here. I know he only had 7 carries against Detroit, but he also averaged 14 in the first 2 games. He's on pace for about his career average, maybe even a little bit above it. So no, I don't think Lamar Jackson gets dialed back here at all. If anything, I think they dial him up because they do not want to be passing the ball much against Denver.
Yeah, he's the 4th highest priced quarterback on the Sunday main slate, Pierce. Can the Ravens even afford to dial him back?
Well, they can't, and they won't. If you look at the last 3 seasons, he set the record for rushing attempts for a quarterback. The 3 most rushing seasons by quarterbacks are his last 3 seasons. And that was with running backs on the team. They need him. They have to run him into the ground. Their refurbished running back crew is not going to get the job done. Hollywood Brown is unreliable. This team reminds me a lot of those average Falcons teams that were really good because they had Michael Vick making the defenses focus on Vick. The defenses have to focus on Lamar, and that opens up Mark Andrews. That opens up Hollywood Brown. Without him running, they're just average, so they're going to have to basically run this guy into the ground.
Yeah, if he practices even in a limited fashion today, I'd fully expect him to play on Sunday. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but there are 4 teams in the NFL, right, that are going to enter Sunday's games 0-3. You got the Giants, you got the Jets, you got the Colts, you got the Lions. A shout out to the Jaguars, first 0-4 team in the NFL season, in which there are 17 regular season games.
0-19 team last time I checked, Emerson.
Yeah, I mean, they're 0-18 now, dating back to last season. Whatever. Okay, back to this question. So 4 0-3 teams, Giants, Jets, Colts, and Lions entering this Sunday. None of those teams have great matchups. So I need you to chase or fade that all 4 of these 0-3 teams drop to 0-4 after week 4, joining the Jaguars in the 0-4 column. Pierce.
Chase it. The Lions could possibly win. They're probably the closest. But what I really love doing here is a 4-team teaser. And you can basically just get the outright money line at plus 260 for all these teams to lose. If you're being really bold, maybe you don't tease it at all and you just take for these 4 teams to just lose against the spread. They're not good. They're all in tough matchups. Yeah, they're going to all be 0-4 next week.
Jeff, let's keep in mind here, though, dude, these teams can still go 14-3 if they want to win out.
Yeah, wow, that's totally going to happen too. No, look, I've got a couple of these teams getting on the board here. I definitely think Detroit has a chance. Their defense hasn't been that bad, at least defense on their defensive front. Their secondary is falling apart, but do we really care what their secondary is like? Because they're going up against the Bears, who, they can't protect someone long enough to actually throw a forward pass. So I think that game is actually winnable for the Lions. The team I really like to get a win, though, here is the Colts. Finally, they've got an opponent here in the Dolphins. They're going to just be able to run Jonathan Taylor. They should finally not fall behind 14-0 because Jacoby Brissett is now throwing the ball. So maybe they only fall behind 3-0, and then Taylor can take over the game. I think this is a very winnable game for the Colts. I really do like them as an underdog. But the theme here is, if you live in New York, you need to start calling up Spider-Man, Batman, some kind of superhero, Squirrel Girl, I don't know, because the New York teams are going to both be 0-4 after this week. I'm sure Zach Wilson will get some garbage yards and everyone will get excited about him again, but because they're playing Tennessee. But no, those New York teams, 0-4.
Jeff, you're a big narrative guy. So last question here before y'all get out. What's a narrative that you personally are chasing entering Sunday in week 4? We got like a minute and a half to go in the show.
Odell Beckham returned to glory here. He's going to ball out against the Kansas City Chiefs. He played a lot of snaps in his first game back, said he didn't quite have his legs under him yet. Him and Baker Mayfield finally looked okay. I think Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham go for a big game this week against Minnesota, who stinks in the secondary. Yeah, Baker, Odell. It's finally going to happen, folks.
Mm-hmm. And Reed was talking about Kirk Cousins and the big game he is going to have. But Pierce, what's the narrative that you were chasing on Sunday?
My own homespun narrative. So we'll go Galaxy Brain. Put on the nerd glasses. The Giants' offense is better than they're getting credit for. Sure, losing Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, it's a step backward, but they're going to get moving forward. Daniel Jones is having a good season, 94 quarterback rating, 161 rushing yards, no interceptions, 10.4% bad pass rate. That's the 4th best in football. And you know who they're going to call, Jeff? Colin Johnson, 6'6", never got any playing time in a Carter Jackson for last season. But when he got to play half the snaps last year, he scored 15 fantasy points in both games with a bad quarterback and didn't even get in the end zone. I love Colin Johnson this week. Go New York.
All right. Love it. Love that show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And hang in there, Duval. You can't lose on Sunday if you don't play on Sunday. Later.